to you, the people of the Virgin Islands. Before we begin, I would like to put into context for our audience the magnitude of where we are today. The governor spent quite a bit of time discussing COVID. COVID has had such an impact on us. Just looking at the data of what we had to accomplish in 2020, more than 60,000 people COVID tested for a population of just over 100,000. 17,000 unemployment claims processed, 47,000 plus stimulus checks, mobilizing resources, keeping our frontline workers motivated, and keeping people encouraged to practice safety measures even after inertia set in. We really need to celebrate how we have risen to the challenge and to the good work produced by the employees of our government. Governor, welcome. How are you doing this evening?
I am good. It is a pleasure to be here. Look, we're on TV.
Oh, this is great. It's good to be hosting you.
Thank you.
I know you've been doing quite a few media appearances, as have members of the staff and myself, getting feedback from the state of the territory.
But, you know, speaking for 2 hours, you would think that people have heard enough of me for at least a week. But we have been doing a lot of media, a lot of positive feedback. But, you know, when I'm speaking to the public, you know, it's the same recurring themes I think I'm hearing over and over. But for the most part, not a lot of questions on the state of the territory and what we have been able to accomplish in the last year. Record taxes from the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. That was fantastic. I think it was, what, 52%?
52% of the property taxes, right. But we didn't get into the remarks because you can't put every single thing in. We also had a 36% increase in the collection of the franchise taxes as well over the previous fiscal year. Now, that was also in part to legislative changes that increased the rate of the franchise tax. Right. But part of the contributing factor was also the ability to pay online 24/7.
That makes a big difference in all of our collections, you know. Absolutely. You know, now it's so funny, even in, you know, people ask me for donations, and I always ask them, you have a PayPal account. That's the easiest way. You just zap them a donation because, you know, most people don't carry cash anymore. And the digital age has really revolutionized your office. You're doing a lot over there. Really.
Yeah, we certainly are. And I always take the time to thank my employees because I have the best employees in the government, so I just have to keep saying
Me too.
It's just true, you know. Now, part of the presentation, of course, focus on the strength of our economy, the health of our economy, and you discussed several projects, the Paulie Joseph Stadium, the Veterans Drive expansion, the different port projects by the Port Authority, the aquaponics project that we talked about in aquaculture, and all of those point to human capital,
right,
and the human capital needs of the territory. I wondered if we could talk a little bit in the beginning of how you see the approach to developing human capital and what are some of the things that we will be doing to prepare our workers for the type of economy and the type of jobs that this economy will offer.
So I think it's push and pull. One of the things that I recognize and you recognize early on in your legislative career was the brain drain. The tremendous impact of your legislation to give free college education to our graduating seniors is going to send ripples effect through our economy in terms of people getting educated here and staying here. FEMA conducted a RAND report. This report by RAND is actually the name of the company. And they identified that it would take 5,000 new individuals. So some of it is push. We have to push our young people to get into these opportunities that are directly related to the recovery, like construction management, engineering, project management, and those types of things. And then things that support all of the economic push that we're doing around the recovery. We need people in accounting, finance, police, teachers, education. But also, getting that trade school up in St. Thomas, because we never had that before. The Whitley Skills Center is now being expanded in that Kerwin Terrace project that we're putting on now down in Gladys Abraham. You know, when I toured this Ivana Dorikin and Charlotte Mali High School years ago, I couldn't believe how little choices that students had in terms of career and technical and vocational. So that was a big part when campaigning. I realized, you know, we needed to do that. But on top of that, getting young people off of the corner and putting them to work in on-the-job training, but learning those skills. So carpentry, electricity, plumbing, masonry. Those are all skills that we're going to need in order to build back this great economy. And we're doing that. So what we did is we dedicated $10 million to just training people, 625 individual. Then that's pushed. Now we're saying we need pull two, because we don't have 5,000 people here. So attracting talent to the Virgin Islands to come in. First, people who already had lived here and moved away. And then secondary people, not only from the mainland, but I anticipate with what's happening with COVID in the Caribbean. It's not happening to us alone. It's happening to all these small island economies. And I expect another migration of people from the Eastern Caribbean to start pouring into our islands again. It happened in the 60s and the 70s when we had the tourism boom, and people from the Eastern Caribbean came and helped us to build not only the tourism economy, but the industrial and the construction economy that we see today.
Yeah. Well, you know, you made me think of so many things. The immediate thing being that my parents came in that migration.
Right.
Of course, they brought me too with them. And I also reflected on this conversation that we've always had about Virgin Islanders who have moved away and live on the mainland and have a lot to contribute to our economy as well. So if you look, for instance, at the community survey that UVI generated just a couple of years ago, the community survey showed upwards of 50,000, I think it was almost 55,000 people that they had identified on the mainland who identified the Virgin Islands as their place of origin.
Right.
And we had talked about the jobs tracking Virgin Islanders away through the Department of Labor, so that if we are to have people coming to the territory, we really do need to make sure that we tap into the skills that we have in our people, even if they're outside of the territory, one. And two, I was really excited, and I got some really great feedback about the item in the State of the Territory address that speaks to the same topic that you just covered, apprenticeships that would also be a method of getting skills to our people. Now, you said that we're going to encourage the private sector to join us in this endeavor, and that there will be something like 625 jobs. And what I thought about is two things. One, it is a great opportunity to get young people into the workforce and to develop in them, cultivate in them the appropriate skills. But it's also a great opportunity for people already in the workforce to retrain, to make themselves more marketable, and to broaden the range of opportunities that they themselves can be exposed to. Could you talk a little bit more about the Jobs for Today program that you outlined in the State of the Territory?
That one is, and you talking, you make me think of 100 things. That one is a more direct program that we're running through the Department of Labor, and we're using the HUD funds to do that. That's $10 million. And what, you know, one of the things that I found when I was at Labor is, people want to train, but they got to eat. They can't go to school all day. They already have lives. They already have children, maybe a spouse to support or whatever. So this program actually pays you while you train. And you get into the program, it's 625 slots. You get paid a decent salary while you learn, and then you spin out into a job. And a lot of times, those are direct jobs that are created because people already need employees. So what we're doing essentially is paying for a business to have an employee to train, and more than likely they will keep you. but there's also the Jobs for Tomorrow program, Skills for Tomorrow program that the Department of Labor has. It's a $5 million program that was interrupted by COVID. But there's another $5 million on the side of that as well for developmental skills through our workforce investment program. So there's like $20 million worth of training right there to help people get back on. In addition to that, we also have $69 million of training that was given to education and $16 million of money that was given to the governor's office to do all kinds of things in response to COVID. And training and education is one of those things. Some governors are taking that money and actually put it towards paying for skills courses at the university or skills training centers. So a lot of opportunity out there if you really want to have at it. In addition to all this, you still have the Section 3 programs that are connected with public housing. So we just started doing, for example, that's a $57 million project, 84 slots. They have a mandate because they got a contract to hire public housing residents and Section 8 residents, low-income residents, and give them jobs and training on those projects. That project is going to go on for another year and 2 years. So it's perfect to start those apprenticeships in carpentry and electrical and masonry. GEC got that contract, and I'm sure they're going to be hiring up right now. They're doing a lot of demolition, digging out that dune spot. But all of those public housing projects also have a commitment to hire people, at-risk students, as well as people who live in public housing.
Okay, great. We're actually going to go to our first break in the program. But I think what I would like to underscore is that we should really try our utmost to make sure that the people who want to be connected with these jobs that their entry is facilitated. Because you hear so much frustration from people. They called this place, they went on this website, their application was rejected, they couldn't complete the form online. So I think the challenge will be on us to make sure that we have a process that is very customer friendly.
That is the absolute truth, because the other thing with a lot of the at-risk students and people that we deal with, they're not used to the level of difficulty sometimes in getting into programs.
Absolutely.
And you have to try again. That's why we always like to put in somebody to kind of just ease that process for them and help them through as a counselor. But take your break. I interrupted.
Okay. I think I have to pay for the program or something like that. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, and we'll resume the conversation shortly.
Welcome to the Virgin Islands. Oh na na, oh na na na. Reconnect with paradise. The VI smiles with me, with the embers of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me. The VI smiles with me, with the embers of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me. Oh, you mean you wash your hands? Hey, you wailing my boy. Every time that you get touched, you have to wash up your hands. Put on your mask, practice some distance, stop spreading corona. And on behalf of the Virgin Islands Department of Health, hold it down on all the mass gatherings. Wearing a mask not only protects you, but it protects your loved ones and your community. Help stop the spread of corona.
As a teacher, I did my part and took the COVID-19 vaccine to help combat the pandemic. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are here in the USVI and they are safe. But we still need to wear our masks, wash our hands, and practice social distancing so we can achieve herd immunity.
Welcome to the Virgin Islands. Oh na na, oh na na na. Reconnect with paradise. The VI smiles with me, with the embers of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me. The VI smiles with me, with the embers of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me.
Welcome back. Gov, the section on workforce development, the segment that we just discussed, easily dovetails into a broader conversation about education. And that is on the minds of all our people because it's our largest government department. It is the largest allocation of resources to any department in our government. And we all see how this whole process of educating children has been transformed by COVID. Teachers have had to really reimagine themselves, to really fine-tune the pedagogy that we're accustomed to by developing new strategies to dealing with children in this virtual environment. Could you tell us a little about the one aspect of this is going to be support for teachers, and you talked about that. Could you expand on that a little for the audience?
Well, look, you know, so we have been doing a lot for the students. You know, we gave out a lot of laptops and whatnot, but we know everybody. There's a lot of people that were at the forefront of this COVID epidemic and pandemic responding. But teachers, I mean, if anybody could appreciate a teacher in this day and age, it's a parent.
No,
because they're home with their kids now.
Take them.
But I have sat in on some of the classrooms virtually, and surprisingly, our teachers have been so resourceful in kind of making it engagement. I don't know if they set me up and just put me in the best teacher's classroom, but the teachers that I had were phenomenal, and the students were engaged. So we wanted to do something for them because they didn't get any laptops. They didn't get any Wi-Fi service. They had to kind of go out and piece these things together. Yeah. We did give them the option of using their classrooms at times. So today we sent out checks. I think the teachers got $1,000 each. Paraprofessionals got a little less. And we did some stuff for the admin staff as well too, and support staff to help support. Because they had incurred expenses and they had to go to great new lengths in order to do this. But I, for one, really looking forward to teachers going back to school and students going back to school. You know, I was just talking about $69 million that education just got. You know, I can't wait till we could get to the point where we could really feel comfortable sending students to school, all of them, not just K-3 like we're doing next month. And then really boosting up our after-school resources to help kids, students get back those basic skills. You know, you're an avid reader, I'm an avid reader. Both of us came from minimal means in terms of your parents had to work hard. We're first generation college students. And, you know, because of that, we invest back. I mean, I've seen too many young people come to the Department of Labor, smart like a whip, walk in. And I asked them, you know, you're going to college, no, why? Well, you know, I had a baby, male or female, and I couldn't afford to go. And that's why all these programs make sense. And we realize that our progress through life is based on three things: a strong belief and commitment in that there's a higher spiritual being, people and a family that love and care for us, and a solid respect for education and investment in that. And I think I want to give that to every student out there, that gift, because with that, then the sky is the limit in terms of what you want to do. And I think sometimes the dialogues that we have in our community, we don't realize sometimes how we diminish our brightness as Virgin Islanders and how we cause our children not to look up to or look forward to a bright future in the Virgin Islands. So I think that our investment in teachers is just one part of our educational progress, but it's a big part, because if we have the best teachers, we can have the best students. Up to last night, I was thinking, man, I wish that we could really put our teachers' salary to the point where, you know, you can't get any, the highest in the nation, and then have the situation where people would be competing to have these jobs to educate our students. Because if we spend our money on that for the next 12 years, trust me, it would be game-changing in terms of the effect in the Virgin Islands. We got a lot of priorities, But we always need to know we need to be able to attract and keep good talent in terms of our teacher pool.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the, in getting to that place, one of the questions that people have posed on the radio programs that I have participated in is how we move from the virtual now to a hybrid of having some children come in. It's and you know, when you really think about it, it really is a paradox, because we're moving closer and closer to a virtual world.
I want to say.
So in one sense, we are preparing the children for the world that they're going to live in on the one hand. On the other hand, you have the psychology of child development that really points to how children grow and develop based on the social and physical interaction with their peers, how they arrive at conflict resolution strategies, how they are socialized. And so the question coming, how are we actually going to be able to accomplish this? You and I were at the Montessori school in St. Thomas.
That's right.
And they have a hybrid, because some children are going to school virtually and some are in the classroom. So could we give a little bit more information as to how we envision the hybrid coming to be, I guess, at some point in the near future?
Well, one of the things, speaking about massive change, right? And I think it's like when you dig a hole, right? Everybody try, the dirt never seems to go, all the dirt never seems to go right back in the hole the same way, right? No matter where, I always end up with a mound. The world has changed. And Senator Fred Gregory, the Senate President, passed a piece of legislation that I called her on, and I said, you know, is this about COVID or this is about, you know, something else? She said this has nothing to do with COVID. And what it gives the Department of Education the power to offer a class in anything from anywhere, virtually. And it gives the student the right to be able to participate in a class. So if you want to learn Chinese and there's no teacher available in the Virgin Islands, you could be in Florida. And you could take the class in Florida virtually. We have to supply you with the supplies to do that. Now think about what that means in education now, that if you live in Corwin Terrace, that you don't have to go to Gladys Abraham. Heck, you could go to school. Or for that matter, you could go Clado Marco in St. Croix virtually. Teachers now, we've been complaining about the teacher shortage. Teachers could teach 40, 50, 60 students, and then teachers' assistants could be in those classrooms assisting students who are having problems with the lecture. Going back to the way it was, the hybrid, my vision for the future of education on a whole is that every class, every day would be taped. Because the technology is there. You'd have a webcam there and it'd be recorded. If you don't understand that physics lesson from today, you could go back, watch that class online, and learn it again from the teacher. It multiplies the effect of the teacher in the classroom and the impact of the good. Because, for instance, math. Everybody can't teach math. If you have a good math teacher, why not expose that math teacher to 90 students? Yeah, you know, that's the kind of way we have to think. So going back now, there are going to be students that still can't go to school. Juvenile diabetes. The parent may not want the child to have a vaccine, and sickle cell, or other kind of childhood ailments that compromise their immune system. That teacher shouldn't have any movement from the class in terms of her approach. She'll know that people are on there visually, and every single student should really have that laptop or that gate open on their desk, do away with paper, taking their test that way. Let me tell you what's going to happen next. All of the standardized tests are issued electronically. Look for our students to do even better now that they're acclimated to using more technology, because if you're not using a computer every day and then boom, they put you on one to take a test, you're not as familiar. I am so excited about this part of education, because the expansion of our broadband, the expansion of the technology in the classroom, and still the ability to interact, not only with students in your classroom, but students in St. Croix, St. Thomas.
And outside.
Outside the world. I mean,
Absolutely.
I had a donor come to me and was wanted to do a program. This is about right when I got in, where we were allowing students to participate virtually in prep schools in the United States, like really expensive prep schools. A couple classes a day, and I said, you know, at the time, I didn't really know if we had the resources and the coordination to do that. Today, we can do that. We can engage Virgin Islanders who are living in Atlanta to teach classes in the Virgin Islands, because some people love home, they just don't want to live home.
To live it. And I'm so glad you touched on the bandwidth issue, because just to contextualize some of what we've done, the distribution of 5,265 Chromebooks and tablets, 2,150 MiFi devices given to students. One of the complaints you hear is the unreliability of the internet. Now that so much business is being conducted across it, and now you add all of the delivery of educational services on it. And here we are with this tremendous bandwidth asset that we have been talking, broadband asset that we've been talking about for years. Is it now poised to, from your point of view, to really impact the situation, to alleviate those challenges?
Well, one of the things that I didn't talk about in the state of the territory, you know, lots of stuff left on the film cutting room store. We have an $8 million broadband expansion project that we're doing now, making sure that all the schools have extra bandwidth for when students return, putting bandwidth in housing communities, public and private, large communities, putting bandwidth in our downtowns, in our libraries, in our parks, so that no matter where you go, you can get bandwidth. And you know what the other part is? Free. That part of that expansion is also tracking people who come into the island who may have COVID or who are visiting for the day. So tremendous infrastructure investment that's going in as a result of COVID and its extra money that we're getting. The other thing I want to talk about too is we're also going to be making some significant donations to our private schools, our parochial and private schools who have been running school for this whole time and doing a damn good job of it. So giving them some money to support their electronic drive, their COVID prevention drive in school, and some resources so we can get back to letting the young people play soccer, football with
All right, great. Thank you. And with that, we're going to take our second break, because apparently this is a very popular program.
We got a lot of
our advertisers like to, get mentioned. So we're going to cut away for a few. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right here when you come back. Thank you.
Together, we are making progress against COVID-19 and getting our active lives and economy going again. As businesses unlock their doors and restock their shelves, you remain safer at home. But if you must go out, use the government's guidelines to stay safe. Wear your face covering when entering a business. No face covering, no service. Use hand sanitizer before entering and when leaving a business. And stay at least 6 feet apart. Practice social distancing. Safer at Home USVI is step 3 in our path to a new normal. We're depending on you to do your part. For more information, visit www.vi.gov.
Welcome to the Virgin Islands. Oh na na, oh na na na. Reconnect with paradise. The VI slides with me, with the embers of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me. The VI slides with me, with the embers of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me.
As a teacher, I did my part and took the COVID-19 vaccine to help combat the pandemic. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are here in the USVI and they are safe, But we still need to wear our masks, wash our hands, and practice social distancing so we can achieve herd immunity.
Welcome to the Virgin Islands. Oh na na, oh na na na. Reconnect with paradise. The VI slides with me, with the emeralds of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me. The VI slides with me, with the emeralds of the seas. The Virgin Islands, they are calling out to me.
Welcome back. Thank you, God, for sharing the information and education, and I know our teachers are looking forward to getting those checks because they traditionally have had to go into their pockets and buy paper and buy crayons and whatever to support their classroom needs.
I think they're going to be sending out too that they actually have to go pick up the check from a school. I don't know
Well,
why
I'm glad they're getting the check.
Yeah, they're getting the check still.
Yeah, man, I'm happy for that. So, every morning we have this COVID call, and we talk about the numbers of people hospitalized, the number of active cases, etc. And we do it in a frame of mind where sometimes the larger healthcare picture has been kind of dominated, has been kind of not neglected, but certainly diminished, the conversation about it, because such a focus on this pandemic, which really threatens people's lives. Nonetheless, we still as a society, as a community, we still have to look at where our resources are with healthcare, because there are people with health needs beyond COVID management. And so we wanted in this segment to kind of take a look at the healthcare paradigm. You mentioned the completion of the modular facility in the District of St. Croix, and the discussion of some of the other health care issues affecting the territory in total. And I wondered if we could talk a little bit first about the modular hospital, because I think the people in the District of St. Croix would really benefit from a little bit more information about where we are with that.
You know, one of the quirky outcomes about COVID is people are healthier. Remember the other day on the call, we was like, well, how's the flu season going? And they were like, well, we're not seeing anybody with the flu. And if you notice, people aren't coughing as much and sneezing and you're not seeing that kind of illness because everybody has on a mask. We're having a very mild flu season. But, a lot of people, especially in St. Thomas, don't realize that we're actually building a temporary hospital. The pictures that you see on the commercial when we first came in, those are actually pictures of the hospital. So the hospital is already built out. I think it's 130, 120 bed hospital versus a 40 bed hospital, what we have now on the island of St. Croix that they've outfitted. And there's only a couple of little things that need to be done there that are causing tremendous setbacks in terms of the oxygen system. They had it hooked to the old hospital, but that compressor and the system couldn't take the new hospital, so they had to get a new one there. And there's some other communication devices and a ambulance ramp that had to be completed. But the hospital is 98% complete. We're going to be opening up this year. It's going to be beautiful. It already is. We're going to be taking you through and taking a tour, letting people see what's inside. They've done a tremendous job there putting that together. When we took office, they hadn't issued any project worksheet to FEMA for the furnishings and the equipment for that. So they actually built the hospital without the furnishings. We went back, applied for the furnishings, and then we got the money and then put that in. That was one of the major delays in why this hospital has not built yet. But it's full X-ray machines, CAT scans, everything, and everything in there is brand spanking new. Once you get inside, you kind of forget that you're in a modular. You look like a real modern day hospital. So we're looking forward to opening that beginning of the second quarter this year. hoping to get that in and really have a full service hospital in St. Croix. And you know, I have friends that are physicians, our physicians in the territory, under tremendous pressure because sometimes you don't have the right equipment, and these are people's lives you're dealing with. But they've done an excellent job in keeping our people healthy. But Healthier Horizons is about 11 different programs, and getting the hospitals up is a big part of that. But another big part is the behavioral health issue. People see people suffering mostly from drug addiction and from mental illness, walking our streets, and they, you know, I see them on Facebook. Why don't you pick them up? Why don't you pick them up? The law doesn't allow you to go and just
pick up people.
Yes, called kidnapping. It's a federal crime. So we went and we worked with the courts. We worked with the providers to create the Behavioral Health Act, and it's a beautiful piece of legislation, but it's 80 pages long at least. We even broke it out and had seminars and told people about what we're going to do. We sent it to the legislature last year. We didn't get it passed, but we resubmitted it in January, and we're hoping that the legislature takes it up and kind of gets that for us, so we can. It not only helps mental illness, it helps people with disabilities, and it helps homelessness.
Yeah, one of the concerns that we've always talked about is the extent to which people have to leave the territory for medical care, and the tremendous amount of our resources, the dollars that go out of this territory to support healthcare in other places. And part of that is attracting particular specialists to the territory. Cardiology is one that people have always talked about.
Neurology is another big
neurology, at one point, even a psychiatrist, and particularly for, you mentioned mental health care for people in our prison facilities, etc. There was a portion of the State of the Territory conversation that had to deal with telemedicine and different approaches to addressing that. You want to share a little bit about that?
You know, people know mostly about telehealth. I mean, you know, I always say good COVID, bad COVID. People are a lot more familiar now with dealing with telehealth and being able to get services from remotely from a specialist. It always used to make me particularly upset when I had to take my daughter with juvenile diabetes to see a juvenile diabetes specialist, because there's none in the Virgin Islands, and they would never touch her. You know, I was like, we could have done this on video from St. Croix. We had to fly up here, take a hotel, get transportation, find meals, and you always think to yourself, what do people who don't have this resource do? You know, your child sick. You know, when it comes to healthcare, I don't care how much money you have or how much money you don't have. Everybody should get it top care, because it's your health. The other part of it is telehealth, telemedicine. There has been a lot of times when you go to the States now and you got to be traveling with all these files and folders of everything that you've been through, right? God forbid you miss something. They ask you what you're taking. You know, you can't pronounce it. You got to bring the bottles with you and everything. What telemedicine does now is your complete medical file moves from place to place with you. So the doctor doesn't have to ask you what you're taking. He knows what you're taking. He knows what your medical history is. You don't have to fill out that form every time, where your grandma died from, where you have heart disease in your family. All of that in one place. You don't get crossed on prescriptions. One doctor giving you something to speed your heart up, the other one giving you something to slow it down. Right. So all of those little things, which are huge things, are like accomplished by telemedicine. So we've been writing the legislation that supports that and doing that. And you know, we spend a lot of time on policy, and you know, like I always say, we don't get credit for passing legislation. That's what the legislature does. But we recognize that that the executive branch is the driver for policy, because we do the work every day. We send them what we think the draft should be, and then they
fine tune.
Exactly. Hopefully. I mean, and that's what the role is. So sometimes I know we send stuff and people senators say, well, why they send this thing here? You know, well, we sent it so you could fine tune it.
And put your mark on it as well.
Right, because we only see it from our perspective.
Exactly.
And there's other things to be considered.
But you know, it's really interesting when you talked about your experience with your daughter's care and wondering, well, what do people who don't have these resources do? It took me back to a question that was posed on one of the radio shows by a caller who really thinks that this is an issue of class. And so the accusation
Healthcare.
was the accusation was y'all don't care about the quality of care in the territory because you could jump on a plane and go and get the care someplace else. And I was trying to make the point, hey, listen, maybe you can do that when you have time to plan for health care.
Exactly.
But all of us have an interest in having the best facilities available to us because if you go out there and have an accident, nobody's going to pick you up, put you straight on a plane and transport you.
Or stroke.
Or stroke.
Heart attack.
Exactly. There are things that require immediate care. And although people may have that perception, I really want to underscore the idea that it's important to all of us because these facilities are facilities that we will have to rely on.
But this is one community where I don't care what level of government or where you are, you know, even the billionaires here, right? They have a Miss Mary who they take care of their kids, who their kids love and they love. They may not be making a heap of money or anything, but people care about them. And you and I, as representatives of the public, family, friends, connections. One thing in the Virgin Islands, you could be sitting down at a table with the governor of the Virgin Islands and the cleaning lady from Parks and Recreation, and you never know the difference.
And they might be cousins.
And they might be cousins. Oh, good, you're just good friends. And I mean, we love it like that. So this is a community where, you know, when you, even if you don't know somebody's mother, you're to the funeral because you know them. And I think that's important for us to understand. I always make my children recognize throughout their life that they are privileged and that they have a responsibility to the community to look out for those who are not as privileged. And I think that's a mandate that we were given from our parents and grandparents, and we pass it on.
Great. Thank you for that. An appropriate place to take another break. Don't go away and come back, say what else.
I gotta check to see how much money you get from these commercials.
Hello. We'll be right back.
I have
I have asthma.
But all asthma triggers aren't the same for everyone.
My triggers are dust, mold, and pollen.
Strenuous exercise.
Perfume and tobacco smoke.
Anxiety and stress.
To manage my asthma, I needed a plan.
I worked with a neurologist to identify my asthma triggers and found the best medications to prevent and control my symptoms.
As I got older, my asthma changed, so I talked to my doctor about adjusting my plan.
Partnering with my family and healthcare provider helps me manage my asthma and keep doing the things that I love. And now I can breathe much easier.
To learn more about managing asthma, visit doh.vi.gov.
Together, we are making progress against COVID-19 and getting our active lives and economy going again. As businesses unlock their doors and restock their shelves, you remain safer at home. But if you must go out, use the government's guidelines to stay safe. Wear your face covering when entering a business. No face covering, no service. Use hand sanitizer before entering and when leaving a business. And stay at least 6 feet apart. Practice social distancing. Safer at Home USVI is step 3 in our path to a new normal. We're depending on you to do your part. For more information, visit www.vi.gov.
Welcome back. During the break, we've been looking at some of the questions that have been coming in from the viewing audience, and we're going to get to a couple of those before we close. Governor, in this conversation, we've talked about some things focusing on our youth. You know, there is an adage that talks about how you measure society, and how you measure society by how it takes care of two groups of people, the old and the young, or the young and the old, whichever order you want to put them in. So we had a discussion about our plans for young people. We also need to talk about, I was really glad, my mom used to attend one of the senior centers in the St. Thomas, St. John district. And when they closed it, you know, they had really created a family, all of these seniors who, they looked forward to going there every day and having their conversations about when they used to head water on their head in a pail and all this kind of stuff. I did that too, by the way. Not as much, but I did some. When you mentioned the reopening of the center, the Adrian in St. John, I was really encouraged by that. Because it's a good step to me to kind of rebuilding some of that community on the part of seniors. In that population, of course, includes a lot of our pensioners, a lot of our retirees in that senior population, and they clamor for good news about where we stand in GRS, what we think about the health of GRS, and how we will contribute to that. One of the things that people need to understand is that GRS is really just not an issue. It's not an issue that affects just one set of people. It's not just the pensioners. It's like upwards of $200 million that goes into the economy of the Virgin Islands on an annual basis. Would you want to touch on GRS a little for those people out there wondering about what happens next?
I tell you, it's the only problem that we don't have a solution for. I think when you look at WAPA, you know, the money's there, just takes time to fix. The roads, money's there, time to fix. Schools, we're going to get we have the money to rebuild the schools. But GRS is one of those things now. The deficit there is bigger than the economy. I mean, they're predicting it's going to be $5 billion by the end of this year. Last year, they sold off $120 million of their stock. That stock that was making money is like you have a farm selling eggs, and every year you kill off
some of the
layers. Eventually, there'll be no eggs. And I think that's what's happening to our system. And, we've been hitting the clarion call. You know, you and I have had several discussions with the legislature, ringing the bell, alarming, this thing is going out. And, you hear people say, well, we could wait. What's a rush? Well, it costs us $339,000 every single day that pension fund. That's how much liquid assets they sell, how much hens they slay a day. And that's a lot of money. And it scares me not because, I'm afraid that I will be the governor that the GRS goes broken. That's not my concern. My concern is, what are people going to do? They don't have any source of income. They may have some social security, but that's not enough to get by. I listen to the cries of people who working now full every single day, and they're saying, we need food stamp, we need housing assistance. So imagine if people who don't only have that source of income coming in, a lot of the people that are getting those funds are not even really cognizant, because they may be in a nursing home, a hospice, they may have Alzheimer's, and those funds are paying their bills. This ain't nothing I'm making up. I know people who are in these situations. Their insurance is going to be gone. You know what it is to be 60-something years old and you don't have insurance, even 50, and you can't get medical care. Their prescriptions now cost $1 million a dose. That's gone too, because there's no money to supply that with. So that's one of the things that I think that we need to be really serious about. And I'm glad to see that the legislature formed a GRS committee. But we have to understand too that we are the decision makers. We listen to experts who give us information, we review it, and then our job is to make the decision. I kind of hesitate sometimes when I think about the skill sets that are necessary to understand a bond issue. It's a very complicated venture, and I try to make it as simple as possible for people to understand. When you talk about refinancing your house, you're paying 10% on your mortgage, you want to pay 5%. That's a good thing. Get back some money, reinvest in the house, and you're good to go for another 30 years. So we're looking forward to working with the Senate President, who it seemed that they want not only put money in the system, and we lost the opportunity to put 400. Well, it ain't gone yet. We could still do it.
We can still do it.
But I think to do that's the easy part. The more difficult part is to tell Virgin Islanders, you can't retire till you're 65, and you can't collect until you're 65. That's a more difficult conversation. But we have to realize that eventually those and other changes are what is going to have to happen if we let it go on longer and longer, because it's a point of no return.
Yeah. So I think we will leave the GRS segment with a ray of hope, though, because I think we've already identified that what the challenge is to simply direct streams of revenue, reliable streams of revenue to the GRS, separate and apart from the contributions. And I think if we all look at it that way, because we've legislated the system, I don't want to say to death, but we've made a lot of legislative changes that if we continue, makes it not attractive for any new person coming into government. But I think the people over there want us to talk a little bit about the questions that are coming in, because people want to know, since you've given the teachers the $1,000, they want to know when they're going to get their stimulus, and they want to know tax returns. You know, that's always
tax returns,
a part of the conversation. None of them believe me when I say that I am waiting for my 2017.
Me too.
They think I can go down to IRB and move mine and put it on the top of the pile. So anyway, could you tell us a little about the tax return situation and any information as to when our residents might receive their stimulus check?
Well, I mean, we like to boast and say that last year we sent out the most of any governor at any time in one fiscal year. The administration sent out almost $70 million. We already sent out $15 million this year. Already, we're going to send out another $50 million this month. We just want to get through February to see how the cash looking like, because this is usually a dry time of year. We don't have money in the coffers, and then when you hit April 15, all the money comes in. So we're going to be trying to do that. If we're lucky, President Biden would get the Congress to sign this state assistance money. That's going to lose a lot of money out. And of course, then we'll be paying back tax returns very heavily, because, you know, in the speech, I want to make people understand that we believe in paying the people first. Last year, even though we had a record amount of revenues, we actually reduced the executive branch budget in order to make sure that we would have money at the end of the year. And that's why we have money today. Not because only we made money, but we reduced our budget by 10%, which left us with like 100 and something million at the end of the year. So, you know, I'm hoping that presidential aid is released, and the taxpayers will be number one on that list. The 8% people, they're going to be on the list as well too, as well as some of our retirees that we owe that retro pay. Want to make good on that. The stimulus money, we're looking for official word that's here in the territory. I'm hearing people saying the stimulus money is in the Virgin Islands already. I don't know. I haven't heard that yet.
Somebody received it. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we haven't gotten that money yet into the coffers. As soon as we get it, we'll start cutting checks. One of the things I want to tell you tonight is, if you have not filed your 2019 tax return, do so tomorrow. We pressured the federal government to use 2018 again. They said, no, you have to use 2019. So please, file your tax checks now so we can get them processed and you can get it checks. It's going to be a quick turnaround. Probably the people who got the Social Security checks are going to get those first. But Puerto Rico, Guam, Northern Marianas, we always have this problem where we don't get our checks with the government, the regular mainland. Because remember, we don't pay any taxes to the IRS. We pay them to the IRB. Unlike other states where they pay to the IRS and they pay to the state and they pay to the county. So those returns come from there. So,
Gov,
yeah.
I know that you want to share some more information, and you have lots more that you would give to the public. However, we don't have 2 hours this evening.
We don't?
No, we don't. We have a shorter time. We want to thank you for coming, and we want to thank you all for inviting me to be a host of this show. It's good to know that I'll have a job to go to, just in case I can do this.
Second career, third, fourth.
Right. So thank you so very much, and thank you for sharing this evening with us, and we hope that we've provided valuable information to enrich your understanding of the status of the government of the Virgin Islands at this moment in time. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.